The Manning brothers
They're awesome.
They're so amazing.
They're awesome.
Great in the media. They're great. They're big personalities. And they tease each other. That Manning cast, I love.
Yeah, they're outstanding. Like they get.
Does anybody rock like a? They are so committed to I think it's called a sweater vest.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they love a quarter zip,
A
sweater
quarter
vest.
zip sweater.
Yeah.
A quarter zip sweater. They have one on every day, dude.
It's khakis with a quarter zip.
Yeah.
Some Docker shoes.
And dude, I lived in North Carolina for a long time. That is the go-to move at a dinner, a country club. It's a khaki and a Sperry leather shoe and a quarter zip and a dress shirt.
They love it, man.
That's awesome.
Well, they're exactly like they're Louisiana guys. They have big money.
Well,
Arch Manning played for the Saints.
The whole family is talented, right?
Yeah.
Like now, whose son
Well, they
is
got
it?
their brother Cooper Manning.
That's right.
His son Arch is at Texas,
Man,
and
he's going to be a player.
Yeah, like it feels like that kid. You talk about tanking, like people are going to be tanking for Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Because I think he's eligible to come out next year. I believe.
Wow.
No guarantees he will, because he can make so much
Well, I was
money.
going to say, when somebody's going to pay him $20 million to stay.
Oh yeah,
right?
man. Make $20-25 million to play college ball.
That stuff's getting corrupt, man. Like it's
crazy.
Insane,
well,
the
but
stories you hear.
But it's on the level now where it used to be corrupt, where you show up and an envelope from a booster shows up in your car, or hey, we got you a fake job. Or
Hey, you're working at a
now
pizza
at least
joint.
it's somewhat on the level, right? You can make money, you can do all of that. Where the corruptness was back in the day, where these guys weren't making anything, but they were driving Lamborghinis. How are you driving a Lamborghini when you don't make money in college?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they finally were like, we got to get around this. Because it didn't. Who was the guy? I always was it Tunsil? Didn't he get?
Well, Laramie Tunsil,
But there was also some text that got thrown out in his thing where it was like, I need money, and
Ole Miss was, every school was doing it. They were all, for every program, they were
all doing it.
They were doing it, yeah.
My buddy owned a shop in Raleigh, and I went in there one day, and there was two guys sitting in the back just on their phones, 7 feet tall. I'm like, what are those guys doing? He goes, they work here. I said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They work.
7
They
feet
work here.
tall.
Gotta
For
go and
50
sleep on
grand
the couch.
cash.
Yeah, exactly. Got to go sleep on the couch.
Yeah. But that's what it was. That was the workaround.
But nowadays it's just more out in the open, right? Like it's just-
The thing is, now it's professional sports. Like players are going to one school for a year and then they're flipping.
But
and
it's
then they're going
almost
somewhere
worse.
else.
Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I get it that there was so much money and the players weren't getting any of it.
right.
And I just feel like there needs to be some sort of middle ground where you still keep the essence of the school and the community and
Dude,
going,
now there's people
all that
like,
kind
what
of
if
stuff.
some billionaire alumnus is like, we need a quarterback. I'll give you honestly $10 million a year for a
Yeah,
quarterback.
exactly.
That, there's been talks of
Yeah.
that already happening at different schools.
Absolutely.
You need that quarterback. I'll pay for it.
Yep.
Like that's crazy
Well, then
stuff.
that's what'll come in as a salary cap for all these schools.
That's
because
what's
there'll be
gonna happen.
smaller schools that can't afford it, and then the bigger ones that print money.
Oh, this would
go-
wipe out small.
Well,
schools.
and you know what's going to happen? There'll be a salary cap, and then there'll be money under the table.
Right.
Again.
There'll be a workaround.
Yeah.
The salary cap from the workaround from years
Exactly.
ago.
That's
Yeah.
that is what is coming. Anyway, thanks to Rob Gronkowski. We appreciate him doing that. And man, they had a good run. Like again, I read this tweet. Someone sent in a tweet. Jeremy, this is how warped it is, because you lose sight of it from a Bill standpoint. Now we're so focused on the Chiefs naturally, but the Pats own them forever, and they're within the division.
Well, he brought it up.
Exactly, and like he's from Buffalo.
Yeah.
But Jeremy tweeted in, this is such a warped mentality, but I can understand it and I appreciate it. He said, I'm a diehard Bills fan. However, my hate for Brady runs so deep that I want Mahomes and the Chiefs to erase all of their records. Go Chiefs. Like, that's sickening.
that is.
But
It's sickening that you have to
You
think
want
like
that.
that to
Yeah.
erase the memory.
But that speaks to the cruelty of what's happened. Like in Buffalo, for 20 years, Brady and Belichick and Gronk would just come in and smack them around and be like, you're nothing to us. And we own this division. And you had to watch this dynasty forever. And they finally leave, and this guy Mahomes shows up. And it's like,
Starts rinsing you again.
and the crazy thing is, I'm pretty sure the Bills like traded out of the 10th pick or something in the Mahomes draft and could have drafted Mahomes.
No. no. Don't start going down that.
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
hole.
Now, it doesn't come up much because they eventually drafted Allen, and everyone loves Josh Allen. Like, Allen is Allen.
Yeah,
but
There's a bunch
he's
of
not
teams that
Mahomes.
screwed up on Mahomes, man.
Exactly. But it's sickening, man, to go through 20 years of Brady and Belichick, and now you've got Mahomes and Reed, and you just can't get out. Like, you can't get out. And now you referenced it. Now you're back at square one. It's like, remember the Oilers in September and October? You're like, man, they just look they look hungover
They didn't
and
look
disinterested
interested,
and bitter. And it's because they made it all the way there, and you got to restart.
Yeah.
And in reality, you're restarting to try to beat the same guy again, and he might get you again.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy is he's not going anywhere. Mahomes is the same age as Josh Allen.
Yeah,
He's 29 years old. He's not going anywhere. He's not leaving. He's not retiring.
No.
You got to beat that guy at some point.
You
He's
gotta
going to be
hope-
around 8 or 9 more years.
Yeah.
And be real good.
And
gotta
be
hope
great
there's
because
a
he's not like he's running for 200 yards or something like that.
No.
This guy's not overly athletic. He's just so smart and so good.
You got to hope there's a bad cycle, a downtrend where they have some player like, Kelsey leaves and
Yes.
Guys like that.
Andy
a
Reid
cycle.
retires.
Exactly.
That's what you're hoping for.
That there is a cycle there where you're not as good, and that's where you get them.
Yeah.
But the thing is there's no guarantee you get back to play.
Well,
against
but
them.
that's the other side of it. Like if you're the Bills, what if Allen, knock on wood, what if you get hurt one year and
Right.
you're out?
Dude, it's
And
the
then-
same as the Oilers. They could get dumped in the first round this year.
Absolutely.
Got to wait another calendar year.
Exactly.
There's no guarantee on anything.
It's sickening.
I brought up the Belichick thing. I was hoping, I didn't want to head down that path. I was waiting for, remember with him no tarp on?
Yeah,
Out of his
yeah.
girlfriend. I was waiting for him. I was
Well,
trying to lead him down that path.
Interesting. He mentioned the Brady roast.
Yeah, that brought everybody.
I was like,
back
that's
together.
what got everyone back together. Was kind of goofing on Brady and
Bobby Kraft.
Bob Kraft, although he was the only guy that was off limits.
Yeah.
Bob Kraft.
But Belichick was there that night. They all got under
took their
one
heat, man.
roof. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is cool. But
Listen, you win that much over time, bygones will be bygones. In the moment, I'm sure it would have been
yeah,
really tough at times to deal with Belichick.
Dude,
and
when
all
you're
the
not
rules.
playing anymore, when everybody's out of the game, it's a totally different ball game. I went to a fantasy camp, and Pat Quinn was there, and I was there, both out of the game, retired. It's just you become friends, fast friends. You're it's no more nonsense. Because you always have this nervous energy around your coach.
Of course.
You're just
Yeah.
I got to be on the straight and narrow, mind my P's and Q's. There's a nervous energy because he's the coach, and you might be in his bad books, and there's just not much said. It's a weird vibe.
yeah.
But when you just have a normal relationship and you talk to them like we would as buddies, it's a complete game changer.
It is. It is. Yeah.
And Gronk said, these guys, they run a tight ship, but the reason they do that is because there's success.
Yeah.
So it's easier to look back on a guy like that when
Oh,
you've won with him too,
Of course.
right?
You know how much
"Man."
better the stories are and how many more laughs and
Exactly.
enjoyable.
Yeah, and it all makes sense. Once you go through it, you're like, I get why we had to be there at 7 a.m. or why we had to do this or why we had to do
Why
that
he
because we
pushed
won in
that
the end.
hard, or why he
Yeah.
did this. And
Exactly. The worst is when it's a guy who doesn't know what he's doing and you lose all the time. Then you're like, I can't respect this. I can't see eye to eye with that.
you're like, that guy was painful.
Yeah. That guy you may not want to ever have a chat with.
Yeah.
The guy you won with, you're always going to come back and be like, you know what? On second thought, it was pretty good.
Agreed.
All right, Pierre LeBrun still to come. Luke Wilson will join us as well. Luke's coming up in just over half an hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, so we've sent Al's brother out. Well, we haven't because he's sick today. We were supposed to send Al's brother
I
out
was going to
somewhere
send
in the city.
himself out.
With a pair of
I
league
can't believe
tickets.
you didn't use AI.
Yeah, all we need is a still of Al's brother, like a picture of Al's brother.
and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And get his face moving without him actually moving. He could have done this the whole time.
I just can't believe he couldn't give us the clue today, but I guess he's on the IR, and that's fine. Things happen. So you have to guess where he's hiding for your chance to win a pair of Leaf tickets. Here is today's clue. This place once served as practice ice for the Maple Leafs, and the great Gordie Howe was even known to roam around the halls.
Really?
Yes. Okay. Tune in tomorrow for another clue. I have no idea if Al's brother will be back. I might be reading it. Maybe Al's brother will be here. The first caller through on Friday with the correct location wins a pair of tickets to see the Leafs and the Hurricanes. Mikko Rantanen and the Hurricanes on February 22nd. Find Al's brother is brought to you by McAlpine Ford in Aurora. Our family, the Ford family, and you. Full details at tsn1050.ca.
We've got big plans. We're going to get Alsbro back up and running with the Cards.
Yes.
We're going to give Doogie a fresh kind of break this week, and then next week we're going to get him back on track for a multitude of different reasons.
Oh yeah,
We'll get Doogie flying again.
a fresh start for Doogie and a fresh start for Al's brother.
Yes,
for Doogie.
all around Al's brother and Doogie. We're gonna find a way to make it work for both those guys.
Okay, that's
We look forward to that. Yeah, we got
Al's brother's got to get his
a lot of irons in the fire
sick,
here.
right? He's just sick.
Yeah, he's just not feeling well. And again, I think, the cards, some guy stole the cards. It's so gutless and greasy that someone would do that.
Where's our Go Card Me at? Did you
I don't
put out
know
a
if we've
poll or
updated
anything?
that.
Like what?
Yeah, we got to figure that out and see if we can work that out.
I'm telling you, I will call around. You should call your buddies. Like call Cujo and Wendell and
I'm not calling anybody.
It's a tough one to ask for. Do you have any old cards for Al's brother? But I think we can get
Well,
to
just
that.
think of it, Cujo. Like, hey, can I have some cards for who? Al's brother. Really? Who's that? The guy I work with. He'll hang up the
Dude,
phone.
you will call people and say, "Hey, I saw you're on vacation. Can you get me a hoodie? Can you
That's
get me a hat?"
completely different. This is like when. Don't you think the hockey card thing would be bothering people?
Well, I don't know how many cards do you guys have?
I don't know.
Dude,
I've
zero.
got some in storage.
You have
I
no
have
cards?
zero
I've got
hockey
some in
cards.
storage somewhere, but I could dig them up. Like I know, like some of my friends and my brother kept some of them.
I'm not even kidding, Jamie. I went into my mom's basement and she had those old school 80s
Yeah, the
photo
albums.
albums.
Yeah. My kids still have them.
She said to me, "You got to start getting this stuff out of our basement." I put the books of cards in my truck and I stopped at a dumpster and I just threw them in there. I'm like, what am I going to do with all these hockey cards?
Why didn't you give them to Al's brother?
Give 'em to Al's
know
brother.
that.
This was years ago.
I know, but he has a card empire. Like Al's brother is a mover and shaker in the card.
I'm going into storage then
world,
because I
man.
think I told you guys in 1991, Eric Lindros changed the game for cards.
He sure did.
Nobody was making money on cards. Eric Lindros in 91 showed up, and because I was the second goalie taken in that draft, I got lumped into some card deals with Eric. Like I think it was Opeachy and all the big names.
Mm-hmm.
Smokies was another one. They flew us to Toronto for 3 days and took pictures of us, did all of that, and we got paid pretty good money, all because Eric changed the game on cards. I've got boxes of these.
Give them all to Al's brother.
I'm going to give them to Al's brother.
Fine. There you go. We got to get Al's brother up and on his feet again at these card depots because he shows up and
Causes a stir.
oh, it's like a
gross
parting of the
stuff.
seas, man. He walks in with those cards and people go crazy. So we got to get Al's brother up and going again.
Doogie as well.
Doogie as well. I wonder if any Alex Pietrangelo Four Nations face-off cards have been manufactured with the
Probably won't be
anticipation
printed,
of
yeah.
being sold. What do you do with those? Because Pietrangelo decided, I'm out. Guy plays 24 minutes last night for Vegas, but says, I'm out. Pulls the shoot on the Four Nations
What's the
face-off.
ramifications for it?
Well, none.
None.
That's the report, that none. He's not being suspended. He's not. This, for me, is a nightmare for the NHL. I think it's an absolute nightmare.
Because who's next?
Exactly. And what Pietrangelo is saying is, I don't care.
Right.
I couldn't care less. This guy didn't stop being patriotic. He's won everything. You would think he wants to keep winning. And he's decided the Four Nations face-off is simply not a box I care to check. I'm out. I think it's a disaster. And I think my biggest
What if
fear.
there's a nagging injury that he has to take care of? What are you
How can it
talking
be
about?
so nagging if he played 24 minutes last night? How can it be so nagging?
Well,
Would
okay.
you think he'd go to the Olympics? I think he would
Yeah.
100%
Let me
be at the
ask you
Olympic
this.
Games.
Let me
I think
ask
he's
you
pulled the
this.
shoot because he's like, I don't care about the Four Nations face-off.
So do you think if you go team
I
to
just don't
team-
like the way you worded that.
Yeah. His wording was a little hard.
How did I?
You
In
know,
which
like
It's
way?
like you're
Does not
fucking on the
care.
Four Nations. How come Austin Matthews and some of the Americans, they're kind of, I think there's a general excitement, and now you're punking on it and saying Pietrangelo doesn't care about
But
it.
that's where I'm going. Is 34 a lock to go?
Well, I think this also puts the other players in the league under the
Tough spot,
spotlight.
yeah.
Because again, Pietrangelo's won 2 cups. He's won a gold. He's won it all, and he's saying, "I want to make sure I'm 100% for my
Okay,
club
then why
team."
didn't he tell him right at the beginning and don't pick me?
I don't know why he didn't do
Well,
that.
he was probably healthy at that time, right?
But he guy played 24 minutes
I know,
last
but
night.
There's still, I mean,
Everyone's got something nagging, though.
Exactly.
Everybody does. I do think there's a separation here, and I think it's important to point this out. Pietrangelo, again, is not a young player.
Right.
He's seen it all. He's done it all. There are a certain amount of young guys. Matthews would be in this. McDavid would be in this. They've never played best on best.
Right.
So they want to be there. There's a corporate element to this that I don't think is being brought up enough, that corporate partners want you on this big stage. Right? The guys making big money with different partnerships. It's like, this is a big platform.
Right.
But I think if you're the NHL, the fear is that it's going to be closer to an all-star game than it will be the Olympic Games.
Yes.
That's my fear. And if you're a fan, you're like, who's to say these guys aren't going to show up and just kind of go out there and, hey, let's have some fun. And
8-7 game.
Yeah, 8-7 game. And
I'll be disgusted if it's that.
Would you be shocked if it's that?
I won't be, but I'll.
That's what I'm saying. This could be the precursor of.
If it's a hybrid of the All-Star game where I'm watching it, I'm like, you're kidding me with this? I'll straight up drive home.
I wouldn't be shocked if it happens.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
I agree with you. But what have we said since the start? The only way you can make people buy into this program is if the players prove that they have bought in.
Right.
And the first guy said, I'm out of here, man. I'm not interested.
Right.
And it doesn't mean he's not ailing. I'm not calling him. This
He is
isn't a
ailing.
character issue at Pietrangelo. Guy's an unbelievable player, great Canadian.
You are just hanging by the stirrups at the top and taking a sky dump on the Four Nations face.
I am.
I was shocked about it.
Go talk to Pietrangelo.
Hey.
This again. If it was the Olympic Games, I don't believe for a second he's pulling out of that.
Right.
I think he's like, of course I'm going. Ailment or not, I'll play on one leg if I have to. I'm playing. I think this is Pietrangelo saying, and he might be doing a favor to a lot of other players, I'd rather be on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
I'd rather not be going to Montreal and Boston. I'd rather not be playing in this tournament. That's the
think
biggest
other
fear.
guys are going to follow him now?
Would you be shocked?
Well, I know this.
Would you be shocked if guys said, you know what, thanks, Petro? Like, if that guy's phone might be blowing up.
The narrative.
Appreciate you taking
now, this
the
wouldn't
first
happen.
step.
And this is the ridiculous part of Twitter and social media and that. The narrative out west was McDavid gets clipped for 3 games. People in Edmonton are like, why are you going to go play for the league, the Four Nations Cup? Why don't you tell them, check, please? And I know that's ridiculous. I know he wants to play. And this isn't challenging the character of the players, as you said. But that's the noise that was coming out of Edmonton last week when the league gave him, when he got 3 games.
Yes.
It's like, don't do any more for the league.
I just find you're irrational.
How am I being irrational?
It was like, finally, it's best on best, and
But
McDavid
it's
gets to
not
play
best
with
on
Sid.
best.
I get it. But you were so fired up for this. You were like McDavid and Sid and McKinnon.
I am.
Now all of a sudden, you go into the stall, go climb up to the top turnbuckle, and now you're dumping on the Four Nations face-off. It's
No.
so out of the blue.
I didn't make this decision.
Alex
Again,
Pietrangelo did.
that's my point, is that it's not suggesting that he's obviously playing through something. There's some sort of ailment. I don't believe he's just made something up. But we saw at the Olympic Games in the past. Remember Ryan Getzlaf had that big. Remember Stamkos broke his.
Yeah.
These guys were Rocky training to get there.
Yeah.
I think there's clearly a separation
There is
between
a
the
separation.
two. And I think we just have to be honest about that. And my fear is that this is actually pulling back the curtain here, and the players are it's kind of like the World Cup in 2016. It was bogus.
I think there's a chance you're overreacting. It's one guy.
I hope I am.
And it's an older guy, and maybe he's...
And he's ailing. That's the other thing. Like, apparently,
But his
he
point,
is ailing.
the comeback, the King Daddy Topper is the guy played 24 minutes. So what is it, his groin? His groin
Well,
played 24
I don't know
His
what
back,
I don't know what his
something.
issue is.
Regardless,
But
I think, keep in mind, what does he make a year? Let's 8.5 million.
$8.5 million.
Let's just call it $9 million a year, U.S. His allegiance needs to be to the Vegas Golden Knights.
But that doesn't apply to the Olympic Games. And it didn't apply to the Canada Cup back in the day. That's my point.
Right.
Is if it's the Olympics, everyone's like, screw my club team
We're
for
going.
2 weeks. I'm going.
Right.
I'll walk there if I have to
Right.
because I am itching to play, and I've dreamt of playing it my whole life. This is clearly different
Yes.
because, again, it's a
Manufactured.
manufactured event. I hope it's great. I'm not anticipating that it's going to be awful. I hope it won't be awful. But my fear has always been it could be an all-star game vibe.
Right.
It could be. Might not be, but it could be.
Right.
And this is the first, maybe it's an outlier.
It's the first
But it's
step
the
you
first step of like, uh-oh, we're 3 weeks out and he's playing 24 minutes a night. And he's
Okay.
like, I'm not going.
So I've got something here. Yep, you're right. And it's hard not to argue.
Irrational behavior. It is.
Not. But here's the thing.
But Jamie, he never talked about any of this before.
Because no one had done this before. No one had premeditated.
Hey, there's more coming. I will guarantee you.
You
but
think
it is,
there's fake injuries?
It's not fake.
It's not about
These guys
fake.
are hurt. Like we were talking about it off. Linus Ullmark.
Guys are hurt. He played 24 minutes.
I know, but you can battle through on any given night if you have a bad back and it feels good that day, and then the next day, and you're 34 years old. Here's my thing. Linus Ullmark. Right now,
he's probably so horny to play in the
right
Four
now,
Nations.
Sweden just lost their number one goaltender in Jacob Markstrom.
Markstrom's out, yeah.
Linus Ullmark hasn't played. You're going down like who's...
Oh, he'll be Grant Fuhrer in the next month.
But that's what they're talking about. Anton Forsberg might be available. Guys like that, because you are starting to look, there's injuries.
See, there, if
And
I'm the
I'm
Ottawa Senators, I would say, I don't know where you think you're going in February, but
there's
you ain't
your
going
point.
there. I would say,
But
not even think about it.
Same point as he's making, but from the reverse. Because if Linus Ullmark doesn't play right up until February 1st and then puts his hand up and goes, going to the Four Nations face-off.
I would absolutely go ballistic. I would go ballistic.
Like, it's going to go both ways. You have to look at the health of the individual player. Right now, Pietrangelo, yes, he played 24 minutes last night.
24 minutes
This is
against
where you're-
Florida last
Yeah,
night.
well, that's a big game.
I understand that.
You
He's
know.
out there grinding, looks great.
I was going to bring you back a hat from the Four Nations. I'm not bringing
I don't
it
want
back.
it. I don't want it.
Yeah, you do. You
I'm
want
gonna
a hoodie,
call
you
you.
want all kinds of
I'm
goodies.
gonna
I'll
call
take
you
a quarter
and
zip if you have
quarter zip. They do the Manning.
Give me an Eli
I think
quarter
there are
zip.
going to be, through osmosis, players that bail. That's why we did a Sports Center hit today. Zach Hyman should be on that team.
Sure,
Zach
he's been
Hyman's
great.
probably got to keep his phone on because somebody's going to be.
Mark Scheifele, same thing.
Like there's
Listen,
guys going to be.
It is something that you should take pride in.
Yes.
You've been chosen. But here's another question I would ask for you. I would ask to you guys, and maybe Pietrangelo's thought this out. Maybe he has. Maybe he doesn't. Again, I don't know where his priorities are. And he's won everything. He's won
Right.
cups. He's won
winner.
a gold medal.
Yeah.
Is him pulling out of this tournament again? He's got an ailment. I'm not disputing any of
Yes.
that. But played 24 minutes last night. Like we have to be reasonable here. He didn't just have surgery. He played last night.
Yeah.
Is he out for the Olympics next year?
No.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
if he's hurt,
Do
he
you
is.
think he found? Do you think he would have back channeled and said, "If I do this, am I out?"
I wouldn't be shocked.
I
And again,
think
if
he's
you're-
too big of a name. I think if he says I'm playing the Olympics next year and they want him,
So what
he's
does that
playing.
say about how like Hockey Canada feels about this event? If they're like, don't worry about it,
Hockey
man.
Canada's got to get their act together. I'll tell you that. Like there's been too much arrogance and too much all of that, and at the World Juniors they crap the bed. Like they've got to
Yep.
get their act together. I
But
don't
again,
care.
using let's use Nick Suzuki as an example. It's been reported on they weren't ecstatic with the way he handled invitations to the World Championships. Is he sitting there saying, "Wait a minute, like if Petro's on the Olympic team next year,
But I think
because you can't question an injury.
But
he's playing right
I know,
now.
but I
He
get it.
played
Here's the
24
other thing,
minutes
though.
last night.
I
then
get it.
shame on Hockey Canada for being that petty. Going, oh, you didn't want to go to a tournament 3 weeks after you just played 82 games.
But they're holding
we're
it
gonna
against.
hold it. But-
Apparently, they're holding it against
but
other
if
players.
they do that, that's
They did
petty
it with
on
me,
their
too.
leadership.
They did it with me.
Exactly.
And if they did it to people, that's shame on them. You take the best players available.
Okay.
You don't be petty and go, oh, you stiffed us last year because you wanted to go hang out or you wanted to rest.
So
after the
Pietrangelo,
season.
it's all
That's
good
petty.
that he's going to play all the way up to the tournament,
I
not miss
back
any games
Petro.
when they come back.
I back Petro because you know what?
Okay.
As you mentioned, he's a winner, and this is a guy that if his body's not right, and he would rather take a break at the Four Nations face-off than go and grind. So be it.
So
it's
be
his
it.
life. He's allowed to.
Of
do
course, he's allowed to do it, and I don't blame
But
him
you're
at all.
saying, oh, but he played 24.
What
which
I'm
is
saying
fine.
is, but the optics of the tournament and the importance of the tournament, I think
Right.
it's unfortunately you're getting a shot behind the curtain here.
Yeah, fair.
That the players, they're all going to say the right things for the Shield. We love it. We're here, but behind the scenes, they might be like, man, I want to make sure I'm ready to play for my team. I want to win a Stanley Cup. I want to.
Exactly.
Again, the Olympics, that doesn't happen. And if this tournament is real and they want to build this up, they've got to put everything on the line.
Yeah.
You get a chance to lay someone out, you lay someone out. You get in a fight, you get in a fight. You block a
it's not
shot with
good
your.
start. At first, it was there's difficulty selling tickets in Montreal, and if this is a domino effect into players pulling out, it's not the right
And then
start.
that's my
Yeah,
point.
that's
That's
where
where
you're
if you're the league, you're like, this isn't great.
Not good.
It's not great. Pierre LeBrun and Luke Wilson still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, something to chew on brought to you by Boston Pizza coming up. We'll get Luke's answer on which fourth down play we're going to remember long term. Right, 4th and 1 with the spot. Did they get it? Did they not? When Allen tried to do basically a tush-push, or that last 4th and 5 where he threw it up for Kincaid and Kincaid couldn't catch it. And Gronk said that was like an 8 to 9 out of 10 difficulty for anyone to catch that ball.
But he also followed it with, you got to make that catch.
But you have to. That is the unfortunate truth.
Yeah.
It can be so tough and seem impossible, but if you want to win a championship, that has to happen.
He stopped short saying, I would have made that catch, but he knew exactly he was thinking. Because he said Edelman, like he goes Edelman, but like,
Gronk would have made that catch.
I would have made that catch.
And Kelsey would have made that catch. And that's just the truth. And that's why they're winners and they're great. And unfortunately for Buffalo, they got to figure that out. Yep. So more on that into the next hour. Luke Wilson will join us. Pierre LeBrun, more on the Mikko Rantanen trade from Friday night and the fallout there and what else could happen around the league. And again, the Leafs with a loss on Saturday. They're not in action again until Wednesday. We'll start looking ahead to that with Minnesota in town. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.